What is going on? And welcome back to another episode of I Coach Nutrition Radio. Today's topic, we're going to dive all into the subject of nutrition and its relation to gut health. So, kind of breaking this all down here, right? Our GI, right, our gastrointestinal tract, they work extremely hard to keep us healthy and to keep us happy, right? And when gut health is compromised, we can face major health consequences, right? And so what I want to go over today is essentially how to use good nutrition, right, to help improve your digestion and keep your to keep your gastrointestinal tract as healthy as possible, right? And there's a very popular MD out there, medical doctor, Gerald Molen, that quoted, he said, "Heal the gut and you heal yourself," right? And so the gut, the digestive system, this is known as our second brain, right? And so having optimal digestion, right, having a very healthy gut flora and a healthy gut microbiome is crucial to being healthy overall, right? And so, if you look at kind of some of the stats here, at least 70 million people in the US suffer from some sort of digestive illness, right? Not including heartburn in this. In these stats. And digestive problems account for nearly 10% of all healthcare spending. So the gut, it allows nutrients and water to enter the body while preventing the entry of toxins and antigens. It's a selective barrier between us and the outside world. But a distressed gut can't act in our defense. Instead, it allows dangerous compounds to enter the body. And that's where nutrition can come in, right? The right diet strengthens the gut and its guardian role, improving overall health and well-being. So what can go wrong with our gut, right? Well, if your gut is distressed, it won't perform well and you won't feel good, right? You won't feel your best, right? And so a trip to your doctor might end with a diagnosis of things like, irritable bowel syndrome or IBS, inflammatory bowel disease or IBD, leaky gut or LG, celiac disease, food sensitivities, bacterial imbalances, or maybe no specific diagnosis at all. Because a lot of these symptoms can overlap and it can be tricky to untangle the root causes of digestive disorders. So what's unquestionable, right, is that a healthy gut barrier depends on essentially three different things, right? Balanced intestinal bacteria, intact mucosa, and then a healthy immune system, right? So when it comes to the balanced intestinal bacteria, our gut contains about 3 to 4 pounds of bacteria. When it comes to the intact mucosa, our gut lining replaces itself every 3 to 7 days. And then when we think about a healthy immune system, almost 70% of our immune system cells live in or around the gut. So if any of these are unstable, your gut won't be happy and neither will you, right? So if we look into our gut bacteria, right, the hardworking cells, you have more bacteria in your gut than cells in your body, right? Mind blown, right? Bacteria can be classed as harmful or helpful, right? So beneficial bacteria are like busy, they're like busy tourists in our guts, right? They come and they go, right? We don't have a permanent supply. So for a vibrant gut, economy, if you will, we need to continually replenish them via diet. So our gut bacteria vary depending on age, gender, diet, geography, hygiene, stress, medication use. Also the birthing method also plays a role here, right? If you're a female, whether you have a C-section or a vaginal delivery. Our first foods, right? Whether it's breast milk or formula. These can also determine what bacteria colonize our gut. And then with breast milk, being an immunological asset, because it generally increases the number of friendly bacteria. So beneficial gut bacteria help manufacture vitamins like B12, vitamin K, B6, B5, B3, folates, and biotin, okay? And they enhance absorption of minerals. They fight off pathogens, they digest food, and they metabolize drugs. They can even influence our total body metabolism as well. So how do we balance beneficial bacteria, right? So using antibiotics can eliminate beneficial bacteria in our gut, creating a prime environment for yeast, right? Things like candida, candida growth. Candida in turn can provoke inflammation and symptoms associated with IBS. However, as contradictory as this may seem, antibiotics are sometimes used to treat IBS symptoms, right? So it just kind of depends there. Reduced beneficial bacteria can also occur with low iron levels or a low carbohydrate diet. At the same time, excessive carbohydrate consumption can contribute to small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is the bad kind, aka SIBO, right? So for folks who suffer from SIBO, a limited carbohydrate and higher protein/fat diet can actually be useful. Eating enough fiber may play a significant role in gut health. Fiber resists digestion in the small intestine, and then it makes its way to the large intestine and ferments, creating short-chain fatty acids, which is an important source of fuel for the body. Fiber also adds bulk and improves regularity, reducing our exposure to potentially dangerous compounds. And then finally, the breakdown of fiber regulates pH balance, promoting the optimal environment for beneficial bacteria. All right, so intact mucosa and the healthy immune system. So much of what we consume today was unknown to our bodies just 100 years ago. Some experts speculate, right, that the introduction of these new compounds explains the increase in food intolerance and allergies. Our gut simply can't handle them, right? And so when the gut wall is irritated or inflamed, the tight junctions between its cells loosen up and we get increased permeability, or what we call leaky gut syndrome. And then also inflammation, stress, pharmaceuticals, bacterial balance, malnutrition, compounds in foods like gluten, casein, lectins, fructose, etc., and food additives, including MSG, can all influence the junctions in our gut and weaken their bonds. So a leaky gut isn't very selective. It might slam the door on beneficial nutrients while welcoming dangerous bacteria inside. This is called bacterial translocation, or BT. It can stimulate an immune response or inflammation, and it burdens the brain and liver. Okay. So a leaky gut often goes along with conditions such as autism, type 1 diabetes, allergies, mental illnesses, including like depression and schizophrenia, skin inflammation such as acne, eczema, diminished insulin signaling, and asthma. Although causal relationships are established, researchers hypothesize that certain compounds like gluten and casein cross the leaky gut and provoke an antigenic response, leading to central nervous system dysfunctions. So what causes a leaky gut, right? Contributors to a leaky gut can be the long-term use of pharmaceuticals, most notably non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like NSAIDs, birth control, and corticosteroids. Excessive sugar/refined carbohydrate consumption is another one. Number 3 would be excessive alcohol consumption. Number 4 would be pathogenic bacteria, right? So infections from H. pylori and E. coli, which can compromise gut health for up to 3 years. Number 5 would be parasites, yeast, stress, both acute and chronic. And then number, what do we got? 3, 4, 6 would be environmental contaminants. Okay, so our gut communicates with all cells in the body, which means that disturbances in the gut can show up as disturbances in the brain and vice versa. As a matter of fact, the brain actually kicks off digestion before the gut. We secrete acids and digestive enzymes before even swallowing the first bite of a meal. All right, and in addition, our emotions influence gut health as well. So when you are afraid, your brain and gut know, and your digestion slows down. Ever had the experience of not being able to eat when you're feeling especially anxious or stressed, right? That's because blood flow and enzyme production in the gut are limited during stress, right? Stressful situations when we feel stressed. And it's really interesting with stress too. For some people, they respond in a way where they, when you're stressed, you stress eat, right? And then for other people, when they're stressed, they don't eat at all, right? Or they eat very minimal amounts. So at rest, the gut receives over half of all organ blood flow, but during exercise, blood flow to the gut can drop to less than 20% of this resting value. And lack of blood flow to the gut during digestion can lead to increased intestinal permeability. Ironically, though, both endurance exercisers and people with heart failure are susceptible to leaky gut syndrome. In each case, though, for entirely different reasons, not enough blood is making it to the gut. All right, so it's important to note that symptoms of a disturbed gut can show up outside of the gut itself, manifesting, as really like unrelated symptoms. And so some of these can include joint pain, fibromyalgia, sleep disturbances, rheumatoid arthritis, fever, restless leg syndrome, anemia, skin irritation, fatigue, night sweats, headaches, and so on and so forth. And then also serious gut pathologies often result in weight loss and nutrient deficiencies, right? Because there's malabsorption occurring here, right? So we're creating nutrient deficiencies there. All right, so what causes gut distress? Often it's the foods we eat, right? Foods that are helpful for some people might not be helpful for you. 4 common offenders here are going to be the following. So lectins, gluten, casein, as well as lactose and other immunoglobulins, as well as fructose. So with lectins, which are particular types of proteins, the most irritating type is found in seeds such as grains, beans, legumes, and nuts. Gluten, okay, and other similar proteins, right? Essentially like things like barley or rye. Typically these things are found in grains, right? And then when you look at the casein, lactose, other immunoglobulins, these are found in dairy. And then if you look at the fructose, this is fruit sugar, right? So people who struggle to digest fructose also often have trouble with other complex carbohydrates known as FODMAPs, right? And FODMAP stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. Okay, so for some, these compounds can induce mast cells to produce histamine, mimicking a type of food allergy and increasing intestinal permeability and inflammation, or they can mimic symptoms of respiratory allergies such as sneezing, sniffles, and throat irritation. For others, these foods stimulate an immune system T-cell response and create or exacerbate autoimmune symptoms such as joint pain or skin rashes. This is going to be things like eczema, okay? And then other people simply lack the appropriate digestive enzymes to process one or more of these compounds, right? And so in this case, you might just get a general stomach upset, or gas, bloating, nausea, constipation, diarrhea, things like that. And then some of the foods that contain these compounds can actually have addictive properties, right? Creating an immediate feeling of well-being. So while your gut might not be suited to digest casein, right after you drink milk, you get a rush of feel good, right? Only to soon be reminded, the gut upset that follows, right? With dairy products specifically here, this is very common with people eating chips and queso. They have, digestive issues after eating it, but in the moment they're like, oh my God, chips and queso taste so good. This happens to me quite a bit. All right, so how to improve your gut health, right? And going back to that MD, they're quoted once again to say the intestinal barrier operates as the biological door to inflammation, autoimmunity, and cancer. So how do we improve your gut health, right? Well, first we got to get to the root cause. So while there can be many causes of gut troubles, there's always a cause, right? So you need to identify it before you mask symptoms with medications. Number 2, you need to eliminate any foods/drinks to be problematic. So what you need to do here is you need to do your own elimination diet, right? And you need to set up an elimination diet so that you can start to understand which foods/drinks are actually problematic. Again, if you don't know what an elimination diet is, this would be a great question to ask, right? Because this is a very challenging thing to do. You're definitely going to want to work with a nutritionist on an elimination diet. I've taken many clients through elimination diets, and it is definitely very challenging. You have to be ready to do it. Okay, from there, you need to balance your bacteria, right? So beneficial bacteria strengthens the intestinal barrier. So you need to choose 1 to 2 probiotic / prebiotic rich foods / drinks and consume them on a regular basis, okay? And again, going into specifically kind of the food list here, that would be a great question to ask here following this podcast as well. From there, you need to eat when you are hungry and you need to stop when you're satisfied. So if somebody is having gut problems and is still gaining body fat, the first place to look is overconsumption of sugars, processed grains, processed meats, dairy, and rich meals. Also, sugar alcohols can wreak havoc in the gut. So if you're struggling with bloating and cramping, eliminating sugar alcohols might be a wise place to start. So what does sugar alcohols? Think to yourself like sugar-free desserts, gum, protein powders, protein bars, etc. All right, from there, you need to slow down, right? So the process of slowing down and actually chewing your food, right, is important to enzyme release and breaking food down into particles that are manageable for the gut. So slow down the amount of time it takes for you to eat a meal. Actually chew your food completely before swallowing. All right. As far as supplemental side of things, glutamine can definitely help, right? It's known to reverse excessive intestinal permeability. And so it can act as kind of a fuel for intestinal cells. And it also might help with some of these allergic responses that are happening there as well. Another supplement there would be looking into a digestive enzyme, right? So with this, typically you're going to want to look for like a broad-based multi-enzyme formula. So many of us produce less hydrochloric acid, right, HCl, which is a key digestive component of our stomach. And as we age, this happens more and more and more, right? So we want to look for a formula that includes betaine HCl. However, this type of formula gives you heartburn. If this type of formula gives you heartburn, stick to the regular enzyme supplements without betaine. Sometimes betaine can cause heartburn. So just the more you know. From there, we need to check vitamin D levels, right? So low vitamin D status might decrease immune function and is associated with IBD, okay? Irritable bowel disease. Excuse me. From there, you need to check your iron levels. Decreased iron status is associated with poor gut function. This can result from gut malabsorption with the consumption of mineral-binding foods such as grains and legumes, or simply a low iron intake. So vegetarians, vegans, and endurance athletes are especially prone to this, okay? Again, you need to make sure that you supplement wisely, right? So natural compounds that might help gut health include St. John's wort, melatonin, curcumin, or turmeric, and honestly, a list of so many more. I'm not even going to share. I mean, there's I would say 20, 30 different supplements there. I'm not going to even list them all out, but just know that there are a lot of potential supplements that could help. As we move through the list, eat plenty of omega-3s, right? So again, we always want to do this through food first before we start getting into supplements. So omega-3s are going to include things like flaxseed, walnuts, hemp, chia, fish, algae, other whole food fats like olives, avocado, coconut, any nuts and seeds typically, right? All of these things can help to moderate inflammation. Also note though that medium chain fats found in coconut can also help with gut health as well. From there, flavonoids, right? So these include things like isoflavones, anthocyanins, flavones, flavonols. All of these things can help to improve gut health, right? So ultimately, if you look at things like fruits and vegetables, beans, including soy, tea, coffee, these are all major sources of flavonoids in the human diet. Foods in the cabbage family and vegetable broths also can help here. And so on the other hand, if FODMAPs are a problem for you, choose carefully, as some of these foods may cause more trouble. From there, make sure you recover well, right? Sleep, stress management, exercise, these are all necessary for the renewal of body and controlling inflammation. Improving these areas may improve gut health. Remember that excessive exercise can lead to poor gut health. Also, avoid big meals before exercise. Make sure you're eating real food. Our bodies have a long-standing relationship with whole/real foods. Food preservatives and additives, on the other hand, present a new and perhaps impossible challenge for our bodies. Make sure you're getting fiber, nutrient-dense, high-fiber carbohydrates like vegetables are important in the diet. So eat your vegetables, right? And if you're like most Westerners, you probably need more fiber. Try beans, peas, vegetables, nuts, seeds, fruits, whole grains, etc. From there, if you have the ability to be able to breastfeed, children who are breastfed tend to have less gastrointestinal infections and inflammatory disorders. Avoid common triggers such as added sugars, refined grains, MSG, NSAIDs, acid blockers, alcohol. These can all harm our healthy bacteria. They can disrupt the delicate chemical ecosystem of our GI tracts and or cause additional gut damage. NSAIDs can cause GI bleeding. Reduce your chemical burden, right? So choose organic when possible. Avoid heating foods and plastics. Use clean body products. Avoid food coloring/preservatives, and avoid fish high in toxins. And when you gotta go, right? So if you need to evacuate your colon, do it. Avoid waiting. 1 to 3 bowel movements per day is considered a healthy GI. And then just some fun facts here. The vagus nerve, which connects the brain to the gut, is cut. The gut functions fine on its own. You have more nerve cells in your bowel than in your spine. 80 to 90% of serotonin is made in the gut. AGEs may enter the body more readily if someone has a LG. And then there is a German psychologist that said that the enteric nervous system is the intelligence of the unconscious. So just some fun facts there. All right, this was a lot, very, very, very high level of information here, right? So this was an opportunity to really just nerd out on nutrition and gut health. If you have any questions, please reach out. Let me know. I would love to answer any questions you may have. Other than that, though, appreciate the support on iCoach Nutrition Radio. And until next time, thanks, guys. Bye.